is this something can wait? Okay. It can wait. Sure. Yeah, I see that on you, and I don't want to get crosswise. Now, I want to tell you a story that you may have heard me tell before, and I want every prophetic ear, if you will, to lend me your ears for just a moment. I want to show you something. In 1989, I came to the Lord in 1988 and gave Him my whole heart in 1988. Now, I was standing at a great little seafood place, and in a little town not far from where I'm standing. And we had pay phones back then. You know, for those real young watching, there were phones that had a wire that connected you to a box, and you could only go this far. And so I'm standing there talking to someone, excited about ministry, excited about what God was doing, and I'm talking to them on the phone, you know, and I can hear them talking, and all of a sudden this cold wind blew across the back of my neck. And when it blew across the back of my neck, I could feel it then. I had a little shorter hair back then, and when it blew across the back of my neck, it was cold. And I turned like this. It was just like somebody had tapped me on the back. It was kind of to get my attention, and I turned like this, and I had the phone, you know, you could only go so far. And I had the phone, and I looked up like this. The restaurant's here. Down this street is a huge Methodist church. Big United Methodist church. Above it in the sky was this huge clock. It was a clock. It was so big, it filled the sky down. There was the dominant thing in the sky. It had a gold face and Roman numerals. And the hands on the clock read 15 minutes till 12 o'clock. When I looked at the clock, I looked down from the clock to the side of the restaurant. And there were people lined up on the side of the restaurant in silver armor. They were wearing armor. They had capes. You could see it was attached to their armor. And they were walking like this way in a straight line. Over here was people in dark armor. It was similar to the silver. And they were walking the opposite direction. In the middle of the two rows of soldiers was normal, everyday people dressed in street clothes. And they were oblivious to the armies on each side of them. They didn't even know they were there. They were just going on about their business in the bustle of life, you know. And so I heard, about the time I'm watching all of this, I heard the person on the phone. Remember, I was on the phone. And this wasn't a dream type vision. It wasn't something that I saw in a flash. It was an open vision. I'm just standing there looking like I'm looking at this camera, and suddenly it was all there. And so then I heard someone speaking, and when I did, I turned my attention back to it, and then I realized what had happened, and I whirled back around to look, and everything was gone. And I said, Lord, what was that I saw? He said, the soldiers in the silver armor are my people that know what they're doing. And they're in this war, and they know what they're doing. And he said the soldiers in the dark armor are people that are serving the dark side, and they are not deceived. They're doing it on purpose. And he said the people in the middle, the everyday people, is everyone else who don't even have a clue there's a war going on. And then he said the clock you saw is all the time there is left. And you of this clock from time to time. Now, I hope everybody's listening, because this is about to make a big turn in a moment. He said, I'm going to remind you of this clock from time to time. Well, a couple years, I guess, now I'm saying years, and I don't remember exactly how many between all of this. So I'm crossing the street not far from this building, and I'm just walking across the street where a traffic light is, and when I step across the street, that wind blew across the back of my neck. Well, I turned around immediately to look because I remember that. There was nothing there. And the Lord said to my heart, he said, I'm reminding you of that clock. So maybe a couple more years, several years, I don't know exactly how many now. There was some young people in our church. They know that I like artwork and things like that. So they went down to, there was a famous artist, Christian artist, who was signing his prints of a new painting he had done. And so they had him sign it to Robin and I, and they brought it back to us. Well, they said, we knew you'd like this, so they handed me the print, and we're standing there, and I opened this envelope, and I pulled the print out, and when I did, it was that clock. It was that clock. Roman numerals, gold-faced. The difference was there was an angel in front of it with a trumpet to his mouth. A trumpet. He had a trump pulled up to his mouth. I looked at the time on the clock. 7 minutes till 12 o'clock. The Lord said, that's how much time has passed since you saw that clock the first time. Then we go on, and I put it back in the envelope and set it up on a shelf in my office, up on a cabinet on the top. And I'm preaching several years later, I guess. And I'm preaching in a barn in northeast Alabama. I'll never forget it. It's cold, cold. I had on a long trench coat. We were gloves, trying to preach. It was cold. And the people were so hungry, they just sit there. And so I got to telling the story about this clock. And I said, tomorrow night I'll bring it and show it to you. I'll show you the picture. I told them how it was 7 minutes. Well, the next night I just grabbed it as I headed out the door and went up there to the barn, and I'm preaching. And I remembered, I said I would show it to them. So I took the envelope and I said, and here it is. And I pulled it up. And I'm looking at it. And I just stopped and looked at the people. Because the clock says 2 minutes till 12 o'clock. And I'm stunned. And I showed the people. Well, I ended up after that framing the picture. Hanging it in my office now. And so then the time came. Several years after that, Robin and I were riding down the highway close to here, and this pickup truck passed me. And when he passed me, they had a grandfather's clock in the back of it. And the door on the clock was just slamming against the clock. And I told Robin, I said, they're going to tear that door off that clock. It's just going to break off of there. I said, I need to catch up with them and tell them about that. Well, I almost caught up with them, and the faster I went, the faster they went, with a clock in the truck. And so I saw them pull over to get some fuel, and I said, well, they'll see it, and I went on. Well, they didn't see it because they passed me going down the road. After that, just come by me again, and the door was banging on the clock. And I looked up and I said, there's that clock again, and that door's going to get torn off that clock. Oh, I said tore off of it. It's going to get tore off the clock. And the Lord said, would you look at the clock? And I looked at the face of the clock. It was a gold clock that had Roman numerals. But this time it was straight up 12. And he said, now you're living on grace. Well, little did I realize that what I saw in 1989, I saw it play out over the years, and now, then it began. Now, I don't know if this is going to make sense to you or not, but then it started. And he let me know that there would be a time would move, there would be a time of 2 minutes right before grace starts. The time of grace. Now the Lord told me, He said 2021 will be the year of true grace. Remember, some of you remember me saying that? Said it would be the year of true grace. Now you say, Brother Rodney, you're talking in mysteries here. I'm about to clear it up. Because the 15 minutes in 1989, He showed me all the way till straight up 12, when the time of grace. But remember, there was 2 minutes the clock marked before grace began. Now this 2 minutes has become I didn't realize how famous it was. And I was doing a program the other day. I was a guest on a program. And they began to say this. Did you notice the awkward 2 minutes that happened at the Biden inauguration? There was 2 minutes, roughly 2 minutes, of silence. Nobody knew what to do. Let me show you what that looked like before, and then come back to me before we do the next part. Now, here is that 2 minutes of silence. Are you ready? See if we can show that. If we've got that ready, I'd like for the people to see it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
My fellow Americans,
So, did you see that? Did everyone see the awkward 2 minutes? This is the 2 minutes that people are talking about. And a man of God asked me, and I heard him ask other prophets after that, what does that 2 minutes? He said, I know it's spiritual. I sense it's significant. And nobody really had an answer. So I went to the Lord with it. And I asked the Lord, I said, what is the 2 minutes? You can turn the volume down on that now if you like. I asked the Lord, I said, what is the 2 minutes? And He began to show me. And He took me to my clock where the significant 2 minutes was before grace began. I asked, come up here with me, honey. The whole team was on a meeting not long ago on the 14th and 15th. And I think it was the 15th or the 16th, the Lord woke you up. And I want you to read this before I finish what I'm going to tell. You take the mic, Steve.
It was at the 16th of January at 2:11.
2:11.
And I woke up, and I didn't know it was 2:11, but I woke up hearing a 2:11 is in progress. And I looked at my phone, and it was 2:11.
that is a
robbery.
robbery in police car.
Yes. Well, I jumped up because we're in a hotel, and I was kind of disheveled. You know, I didn't know you had to get, we say, our bearings about me. And I went into where this little sitting area was, and I began to write this conversation I was hearing. It said, and I heard this voice say, a 211 is in progress, and there's no one to report it to make an arrest, no court in the land. But they are forgetting about me, saith the Lord, the one who is judge, the one who sits high and sees all the plots and schemes of the enemy. For I will be their judge, and the courts of heaven find them guilty. Guilty as charged with the crimes against my people, against my heritage, and against my land. And for this they will pay, saith the Lord. No, excuse me, saith the I Am, who said, tell Pharaoh, I am sent you.
Now, the Lord told Robin in that prophetic word, he said there's a 211 in progress. There's no one to appeal to, no one to report it to. Appeal to the court of heaven. Now, when they ask, what does this 2 minutes mean? What does this 2 minutes mean? Well, I have an encounter with the 2 minutes. And the Lord spoke this to me. He said the 2 minutes of silence that came across that place was the courts of heaven deciding what was going down with certain people. Their cases had been brought before the Lord. And 2 minutes of silence while it began to come down. And the Lord said this to me, while cases were decided, they were decided that day in those 2 minutes. And the Lord says this to me, the 2 minutes, he said, for whom the bell tolls. And he said, they have been weighed. Everything was weighed that day. What is the harvest? I don't know. I have no idea. It's probably different for each person. The harvest that's coming. You heard a baby cry out twice in that video. A baby was crying. Now think about it. And the 2 minutes on the clock was a trump. And so the Lord said to show you, I didn't do this. I didn't have the cameras doing this. This was straight footage feed that was given, and the cameras that close in were their own doings, not mine. So we took and highlighted who they brought this to. And I want you to listen and watch this closely. Roll the footage.